Yo, this hot, this the spot, there it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a comedy podcast to help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great guest with actor and performer, Margaret Burrus. She's awesome. We have a really great chat. I also want to let you know that we have a newsletter. It goes out every Monday, and it is done out of a hope that it inspires you to pursue comedy or acting. It has tips for comedy writing or pursuing acting or pursuing comedy. And it also has health tips, or what I call life balancing tips, like things you could do around the house or things you can do with your day so you can accomplish your goals. The whole idea is to inspire you, and there's different ways to inspire you in each newsletter. It's free, goes out every Monday. We have a link in the bio for you to check that out. I hope you do check it out. We, this week, released one that had an article in it about how to not say and words like that all the time when you are interviewing someone for your podcast or doing a public speaking engagement. Things like that are in the newsletter to help inspire you, and I'd just love to share that, so I hope you check it out. On to today's episode, we have Margaret Burrus, and we mentioned her husband a couple of times. Her husband is Davey Gardner, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. They're both really funny and hilarious. And she was so fun and great to talk to. We talk a lot about acting. So if you are pursuing acting, this is a great one for you to check out. And we really get into the weeds about auditioning. And it has a lot of really great advice. Let's just get right to it. Here's my chat with Margaret Burrus. Before the pandemic, we were doing stuff most nights of the week, it seemed.
Yeah.
And then it went to nothing. And so then it was like 2 nights a week, and it was like, God, that's enough. I don't need any more nights out.
Yeah, I know. It's true. But we're old. I'm married, washed up. I tried to do, like one of my big first outings was going and trying to do stand-up, which like I've done maybe twice, like way, way back in the day, and learned quickly it was not my vibe. But for some reason I was like, that's what I need to do. And I went and I tried to do stand up about like planning a wedding and like picking out china, like, and to a sea of young 20-somethings that just found me detestable, just unrelatable. No one liked me. Crickets. I like came home and had an absolute meltdown. I was like, I'm so old.
Where was the set?
BCC. It's a great open mic. It's called Ladies Who Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
They're so nice. People do like character stand up, like such a nice group of people. And there were older people. I don't know. I don't think like Marriage Material was the vibe of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
I don't know. It just like freaked me out. I was like, maybe I should stop.
I've noticed that I think a few people who have not done stand-up but have been doing improv and sketch have recently tried their hand at stand-up. I wonder why that. Maybe that was just because stand-up was going on when improv wasn't, because improv theaters were like, yeah, no thanks. I don't want the liability during Omicron. I get it. But I guess maybe that's what it was. Was that part of it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Well, for me, a little bit. So last year, I went and saw, I guess, my first live show. I have some friends that have auditioned for Just for Laughs, like most years, the Montreal Comedy Festival. Mainly, my friends do the character showcase. So my first live show post-pandemic last summer. Anyway, I went and saw the callbacks for it. And it was like, I was so stoked. Everyone was so good. I was so excited for everyone. And I also felt like wild having, because they were doing the callbacks at Asylum, which used to be the old UCB Chelsea theater. So it was wild being back in that space because that's where I used to do all my back in the day when I performed.
Yeah.
And Allison Cohn, who's a great comedy casting director, was in the audience. And I've submitted some stuff to her in the past, but we were talking after the show and I was like, I'm so jazzed. Live theater's back. This is so fun. And she was like, actually, it's been back for a while in the stand-up community. The stand-ups have all been doing outdoor, like bar shows. She's like, I've been seeing a lot of stand-ups, and that's basically all I've been pulling from for casting, which I found really interesting. So I guess the takeaway is that stand-ups are really resilient, and improv and sketch people kind of hide and don't make it happen.
I don't think that's the take back for me, because like, I mean, I know you're kidding, but like I do see someone saying that for real. And you know, it's really theaters versus someone saying, well, this bar is open, I'm gonna just do a mic there. And they don't their hands are kind of clean of anything, because all they have to do is like set up the mic, and the people running the bar or the restaurant are the ones who have to check if someone's vaccinated when they come in.
But like, I used to do improv in bars. I think it has to do more with like groups of people, you know?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Probably it's probably easier to book a show with a couple of stand-ups rather than, you know, go to the Triple Crown and stuff into the basement and have a bunch of people get up on, you know, it's hard to regulate that with like vaccinations and stuff. So
true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe it's easier to get a show together if you have 8 comics. That's all you need to do a show.
Yeah.
But if you have 8 improvisers, they'll be like, I'll do a set.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do 2 hours.
Well, do you know what I've done? I've really just hit a wall with not doing comedy. Like, one, I haven't been doing live sketch, and that's what I kind of have been doing the past few years.
Right.
And 2, I was missing improv. So I signed up for an improv 101 class.
Good.
At the Magnet. And Rick Andrews is my teacher, and he's great. It's like so fun, but it's like kind of silly because like after the first class, people are like, have you done this before?
It's like, yeah, I've been doing it for many years.
Yeah.
That happens just because the nerves aren't there to go out there and just initiate a scene, and they'll be like, oh, they just did that, and I guess it's easy.
Completely. I also think like I think it's been really good for me because I've been missing improv and was trying to figure out like, oh, how do I want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
There's some like rules and basic things that I've just forgotten.
Yeah.
Like initiate a scene where you know the person. Like, I don't know. Like that's so basic, but I needed a reminder of that.
So
I
much
feel like
of that is
once you get through training, you kind of start doing practice groups and you just do zany improv all the time and you forget like what actually makes a good scene. Yeah.
You're totally right. That's the experience I've had when I've retaken a level 1, and it's a great reminder.
Yeah, definitely.
I encourage more people to do that, quite frankly, just because you put it a perfect way. You get kind of used to the team or people you're performing with or your style, and you can start being kind of zany and or really going for it in certain ways. You're like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm not really yes-anding.
Yeah.
Or I'm not really utilizing some things that make the scene a lot easier.
Yeah. Or just like some of the scene work. Also, I really appreciated the way that the Magnet teaches versus UCB, although I love UCB. This isn't me like shitting on it, but I think that I really love like naturalistic, build the scene based on like emotion. You don't have to immediately name everything that's going on and find the game. You know, it's like I found that to be really fun. TJ and Dave. Yeah. Have you ever seen TJ and Dave?
I've seen them live twice, and I have their DVD, but someone has not given it back, and I can't remember now who it was. I'll let borrow it, so I don't have the DVD. But yeah, Dave Pasquesi is one of my all-time favorite improvisers.
Yeah, I would say that that's that is like beautiful improv, just so patient and then like allowing the story to just evolve. And it's closer to acting than anything else. A friend of mine did an online class with the groundlings and then kind of poached a teacher to teach us just some of the advanced level stuff, some of my friends over Zoom. And they also do really nice, theirs is more character based. Have you ever done stuff with the groundlings?
I have not. I do know that they're more character based, though.
Yeah, like basically the game is more centered around a character's like silly choice. So like everybody has to make like a physical choice, or the way that they described it is the spine of your character. What is the quote that would be the spine of your character? So like maybe it would be like, I'm so great. And so then like how do you create a character that has a spine that's I'm so great, you know? It's
Okay, interesting. That sort of reminds me of Paul Valancourt's Triangle of the Scene, where it's like you have a deal and I have a deal, and your deal is who your character is.
mm-hmm.
What is their deal? What's the thing that they are doing or feeling?
Yeah, definitely.
And that helps so much because it does help create a game, because you are going to interact with your scene partner a specific way based on
Mm-hmm.
what your deal is and what their deal is.
Yeah, completely. Agreed. In agreement.
Are you jazzed about improv again? I do feel that there was a time when people were sort of, I mean, it may have been online improv sort of sucked it out of people, but I feel like I'm only right now getting back to the passion that I had for
Yeah,
the like nuanced ways that you can approach improv and all these different things.
completely. I feel like my journey with comedy in New York was so like goal oriented that I'm trying to reapproach a lot of my interests with just a level of like curiosity. Like I moved to New York because I used to go to DCM when I was in college and I was like, I want to do UCB. And then I was like, I met Molly Lloyd and I saw her booking commercials and I was like, I want to get a commercial agent. Like got the commercial agent and I was like, okay, well now I want to do TV and film, and I got that rep and I want to get on the team. I was auditioning. It was all like, I don't think I was soaking in what I loved so much about it. I was really like chasing after steps I thought that I needed in my career. And now it's great to be represented. I'm so happy with all the people I've met and all the training I've had. But now I'm like, ugh, I feel like I didn't marinate in what I loved so much about it. Like being in a 101 class, I'm like, and seeing people create scenes that I've never done it before, and like the joy, and same with writing. Like I feel like people used to just be like, write your own stuff, make your own opportunities. And I was like, yeah. So I was like doing it because people told me to make my own opportunities instead of like being genuinely interested in what I'm writing. Maybe it's just that old married wisdom, but
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so much to unpack there because it's something I've seen and experienced from so many people, and it's the whole hustle culture thing.
mm-hmm.
Like there is no purpose for doing it. It does get to be like, well, people said put a YouTube video up a day, so I have to do a
Yeah.
YouTube video a day. And it's like, but for what reason are you even doing it? And I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
talking about goal oriented. I just mean, why do you feel the need to do that? And
Yeah.
if it's just because people said so, well, what does that got to do with anything? You know? And we end
Yeah.
up burning out just trying to
Completely.
beat this grind that leads to nowhere in many cases because we didn't have a purpose or a reason that we were doing it.
Yeah. I also think like something that I have learned just with time is like authenticity. And, I would come into these, I keep talking about auditions, but like ultimately my goal is to be auditioning and booking TV and film. And the auditions I've had, I've just brought so much eagerness and like making this is audio. I'm like making hands where I call it choking the bird. I don't let the
Okay.
bird fly. I'm just like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And people feel that energy. They're like, whoa, this girl wants this, and that means she needs it, and we don't need to cast anyone who needs this.
Right.
I think if I had just maybe just been it's so easy to say, like, in retrospect, like, or it's something I'm working on, I guess, is just being more available and present.
Being
Yeah.
present and appreciating where you're at and enjoying each stage, because it also like rests your mind a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
not be constantly thinking about the future and how is this going to work. Because how many times, I mean, we're both actors, how many times have you had to stop yourself from, like, if you saw how much a gig that you're going to submit for, you haven't even been called to audition, you see the amount of money and you go, don't think about the money, because
Oh
it's
my.
so likely you're not going to get the gig. But if you get caught on like, this is going to mean this for me, and if I get,
Mm-hmm.
people do that all the time. If I get on a house team at UCB, then I can get on SNL. And it's like, they don't add that many new people to SNL every year. Like the chances are so slim. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying this to the guest that we just had on the podcast, but he was talking about how when he was at IO, there was a teacher he had that said, every couple of months, there's someone who comes into our lobby, they've sold everything, and they've come here thinking they're going to be Tina Fey. And we have a
Mm-hmm.
lobby full of them, and they're not going to be Tina Fey. And some people might hear that and be like, oh, that's so defeatist and blah, blah, blah. To
Yeah.
me, it's empowering, because you should be who you are. You might be more successful than Tina Fey, but even if you're not, there's a whole lot of success between where you are now and Tina Fey. Like, there are
Yeah.
people who aren't famous, but are making a living in this industry. So why are we
Yeah.
chasing, oh, I got to get on SNL because that's the only thing that's going to matter? No, it's not.
Completely.
It's really not.
It's not. I mean, it's like hitting the lottery, getting those very niche jobs. It's hard to get. Oh my gosh, I so relate to you to looking at the payment. Like, I immediately like picture myself in like star-shaped sunglasses, like walking
Yeah.
off the plane, like I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
But I feel like a helpful step for me, I had a manager before the pandemic that didn't really game plan with me much, like didn't see big picture where I was going, was really focused on just booking as many commercials as I could. And I switched it up, and I have this new manager that is just so convinced it'll happen for me eventually. She's like, "I don't know, I kinda see maybe, like, you playing a mom down the line." She's like, "It's gonna happen." She's, like, so confident in, like, my life having this career rather than it being, like, tomorrow I need to book something. She's like, she's like, honey, I'm in it for the long haul. I think you're great." It's, like, such a nice it's
Uh,
something that I need to hear because 'cause I'm like, "Okay,
yeah.
yeah, life is long and, I
Yeah.
could be a famous grandmother."
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And we can't get married to the stuff that we know about, because there's
Mhm.
so many opportunities out there outside of what we know can happen.
Yeah.
So, just like pave your own way. I'm not saying this to say, so don't try hard or don't be focused. Like, you still have to be focused.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
still have to
totally.
make an effort, but some people are turning it to 11 when it just doesn't need to be, and they're burning themselves out mentally thinking about that sort of stuff, and it doesn't help them. It doesn't. It just doesn't. I don't think it helps most people to think of it that way.
Yeah. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still like that.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
there's like right now I'm practicing being really happy, but there are days I, like, wake up and I'm just, like, bummed that I'm not heading to set. Like, there are days I'm just
Mhm.
like, "Okay, Hollywood, where are you? I'm here, your next big thing." And I get really annoyed about it.
Mhm.
That's all. That's the
Yeah.
point.
That's the tweet.
It's just like, yeah, I think, like, I feel ready to take on certain things.
Mhm. And I said it to Davey when he was on your hubs. The
Mm-hmm.
last time he was on, I said, well, you've worked so hard and, you're always like writing and working so hard. And I was like complimenting him. And he said, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I wish I had given myself more of a break, like I wish I hadn't been like that about it because I didn't need to be that way about it necessarily. And I get what he's saying because he's essentially saying, I don't need to stress myself out over what the outcome is going to be. You write the sketch so you can get an idea out and so you can hone some skills, but
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like going to the gym and working out. Even a professional athlete, they're focused when they're in the gym and they're challenging themselves.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard even the ones who are like in the gym all day say anything like, "Oh, if I don't do this, then I won't get the championship this year."
Mm-hmm.
That's not how they look at it. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of actors look at it that way, where it's like, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to get that. It's like, oh, you need to just do this because it's good for you to do right now.
Mm-hmm. Or you just enjoy doing it. Like, yeah, I guess that was the point. I find myself creeping into the like scarcity mindset of like, where's this, where's that? And not reminding myself like so many things that I have done or that I've built for myself or creative people I have all around me that I could just pick up the phone and make something with. Like, it's funny how you can start to convince yourself you don't have anything. I mean, that's also coming off of some really tough years where we were super isolated. But
Mm.
did Davey tell you I have a 9 to 5 now?
No, I don't think so.
I am a working woman.
Ooh.
I work from home and work on a computer. But you know what's helped me? What that job has helped me do is not look at the money when I have an audition.
Right.
Because now I'm like, okay, have a paycheck and I have benefits and like I don't actually need this income. I'm just like interested in maybe collaborating with people.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it's such a funny job because it's like a bunch of comedians and actors work there. It's like a bunch of comedians. Like I could probably list a few off and you would know them. It is such a funny.
I had a job like that where it was like
Yeah.
everyone in the department I was in, it was like UCB and Magnet.
Yeah,
Like-
it's so fun. It's so dumb. I'm like, look at all of us like doing computer.
It seems like some people can put someone in a corner, an actor in a corner, like you got to choose, but you have not had to choose.
Well, this job is a unicorn because I'm part of a team. So they need me, but there's people that can cover me. So like I booked a commercial and I just told my manager, who's also an actor in LA, hey, I booked this commercial. Oh my gosh, so excited. Let's get your calls covered for tomorrow. You can book out. Like I'm book out, but like block off my schedule. And then in terms of auditions, as long as you're working 8 hours a day, you can have those 8 hours be whenever. So I have a chunk of like 3 hours in the middle of my day that's just free that I usually do my auditions in.
Oh, cool.
So I work in the morning and the evening. But some people work 9 to 5. Some people work because it's work from home. So
Right.
I'm just doing like self tapes or, voiceover auditions. And it's great. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't even know this life existed. I like kind of want to tell everybody. Now I'm like talking about it on a podcast now, but I'm like, I don't want. I'm like, you don't have to starve. Find a good work
Right.
from home job and make sure your manager is an actor.
That's what I need. I need that unicorn job, or just like one of the millions of things I'm trying to just work out. You were mentioning that sometimes you have to remind yourself of the things that you've done,
Yeah.
and you have done a ton of awesome things. Like you've been on the Truth podcast a ton, doing voiceover stuff there, and I
Mhm.
see that I've been in your apartment and I know that you have a voiceover booth. I see it through the screen here. So you're doing that kind of work. You mentioned sketch, but you're in Boogie Manja, one of the popular sketch troupes. Is that the fair way to, it's because it's kind of an entity. It's not like a theater the way UCB was a theater, but it was a troupe that was doing a bunch of stuff and had a few different teams, right?
Yeah. We were mainly at the Magnet, and then that closed down. But over the pandemic, we started doing digital sketch, which actually was so fun because Alec Cohen, I don't know if you know him, but he's such a great videographer. He was our director, so we shot a pilot over the pandemic
Oh, wow.
randomly and did some really fun sketch stuff. Anybody out there, plug Pagliacci sketch comedy, check out our digital.
Night after night, we scroll through these tiny images, never stopping to wonder how deep this really goes.
We've only just begun to scratch the surface of the Netflix library.
There are titles on there. They look and sound like titles we know, but they aren't from any network anyone has ever heard of.
I mean, listen to these titles, yeah? American Alligators, Murder Before and After, Robot vs. Food. I mean, who's watching these shows? And who's making them?
I came across the title that was just my name, and it ran for 3 seasons.
We're still filming the documentary, right?
Yeah, we're still filming the Netflix documentary.
It's already on Netflix.
No, it was really fun. And then I think we're going back to live shows soon. So I'm so
Awesome.
excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw a couple of your shows, and you're super talented. That was one of the things that we like, Justina and I, but also our other friends who are on our indie team. We're always like, oh my gosh, she's so funny. She's so talented.
So nice.
Well, it shows that you have done so much just seeing you on stage one time.
Mm-hmm.
You have a presence, but you're also, I guess, trained is a good way to put it. Like you clearly know your way around the stage and around performing.
Yeah.
Before New York, were you doing a lot of theater? Or were you doing comedy at all? Because you're
Yeah.
from Tennessee, you went to UNC.
Yeah, so I was like a child actor. So I did regional theater growing up in Nashville. Would like miss school to be in productions. It was super fun. So I like learned at a young age that I could like be paid to play. So I didn't ever not want to do that. I like had an agent for a bit, and then I really wanted to play soccer. So I put it on ice for a bit and then continued into high school, mainly just like high school theater productions, and then went to UNC, did shows at UNC, and then fell in love with sketch and improv there.
Okay.
The Chapel Hill Improv Players is a pretty well-known improv group, if I might say. So, sorry, that sounds like such a brag.
No, it's I can tell you're joking, and I laughed on the inside, so not to
Thanks,
interrupt
thank you,
but
thank
yes,
you.
I was
The best
laughing.
kind of laughter, internal.
I was also going to ask if you did anything, because it's since been closed for reasons.
Yeah.
But there was Dirty South. There's DSI was
Yeah,
there.
DSI.
Wasn't there something else there off campus in Chapel Hill?
I think it was just DSI. They used to have a really fun improv festival that a lot of people from New York would come down for.
Yeah, and I went to it. I went up to it a few times. I mean, like
Yeah.
2015, 2016. I wonder if we ever crossed paths at that festival.
Oh, maybe I sat in the audience of one of your shows.
I have no idea. What years did you ever go there?
I was at UNC 2010 to 2014.
Okay. 2014, I did a stand-up thing, but it was kind of like after all of the main part of the festival. So I doubt you would have been at that. And it was
Yeah.
2015 when I really was there in like an improv capacity.
I don't know if I ever went back except for when I was in school.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was such a fun. I mean, college. Did you do improv in college too?
I didn't.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
I had an improv class,
Yeah.
it wasn't like they had us read Truth and Comedy, but it's not like we were utilizing anything in that other than
Mm-hmm.
yes and.
I mean, college improv and sketch shows were so fun because they were just like sold out. Everyone was like so into it. But we did like the dumbest comedy, like only games. We did this one called Try. Have you ever played Try That On for Size? I don't even know if that's what you call it. Basically, you start doing a motion and it's like you're going like this and it's like, I'm climbing a ladder, try that on for size. And then the other person's like, I'm a cat scratching a pool, try that on for size. And like,
Right.
oh my gosh. And everyone just went crazy for it. It's like the most basic ass improv. But it was fun. And then I got to New York and I was like, okay, where are the crowds?
Yeah, isn't that weird coming to New York and the shows, stand-up and improv, I assumed were more well attended. Because I was like, it's New York. Of course people are going to comedy shows. So then I go and I'm like, it's just comics here or just the improv teams here.
Yeah, I know. And like, I mean, in college, it was like these huge student auditoriums or like giant theaters. And then, like, in New York, there's not venues like that except off Broadway stages. And that's hard. It's like we're going to do improv there. But, the coolest thing that my college troupe did was we raised money during all our shows to then fund a big trip that we would always take to Chicago. And we would go and do classes at Second City and IO and go and see a bunch of shows. We'd pack like a ton of shows into like a 4-day weekend. And oh my gosh, it was so fun. Oh my gosh. Wow. The good old days when you're like are experiencing improv for the first time and you're like, this is incredible.
It is. And we just had our 5-year anniversary here. And I was just thinking back to like when I first started improv in New York. And it was like, the good old days. It's kind of fun and nice that you can still have good old days when the older you get, like the good old days is not just college,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was journaling the other day and I was like trying to think of a time when I was just like really like just so confident. And I think like that first year I was in New York, it was like I hadn't had enough like no's and I was coming off hot from college and I was so confident going into, you're in classes and stuff. I do miss being a little cockier. I feel like now I'm like, there's a lot of good people around.
For sure. Yeah, no, that I feel like I've experienced a little bit of both of those because when you're leaving, especially I feel like when you're leaving the South, like a smaller place is all I really mean, not necessarily the South itself. But coming from Greenville, South Carolina, there are a couple of friends who are like, oh, I hope I see you on SNL, blah, blah, blah. And like first week here, I'm at a sketch show and I'm like, there's absolutely no reason I would be on SNL when this person exists in this city and it's been here a while. Like, why in the world?
I know. I have to say that the comparison game is one that took me a while to really wrangle that green-eyed monster. I had such a hard time, even like friends of mine I think it was hard for me to go through UCB for so long and fight to get on teams for so long and not start to get like, jealous or annoyed at people. I feel like with, time heals things. And then honestly, with all the theater shutting down, it was like, oh, we're all on the same boat now. And I think that was a lot of what I struggled with as well when I was younger, just feeling really like, not like wishing anybody not well. What's the opposite of not well? Bad. But do you know what I mean? I think like it's hard, and you're watching these shows. Like when I was younger, I looked up to it and I was excited by it. But then once I was in it and I was in New York trying to be there, I lost some of the joy of it. I wasn't able to like watch a show and be like, this is so fun and like all these people are amazing and I'm so happy that person knows how to do that. I was like sitting there being like, okay, so the next time I'm doing a show, I will make a move like him. And
right. Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, and there's sometimes a team is so good that it gets me out of that.
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
like I don't know how much you've seen Megawatt teams at Magnet, but Bodywork is that team for me. They're just like hands down my favorite improv team. Just like
Yeah.
anywhere, not just at Magnet, just like any improv team I've seen, they're my
Mm-hmm.
favorite because they're so good and they're so funny that I'm just laughing deliriously. It's like my brain doesn't have time to be like, oh, well, you're not as good as Colin and you'll never be.
Yeah.
My brain just doesn't go there. I'm just
Yeah.
there for the ride. It's like watching 30 Rock. I was just taken away and on the ride and not thinking at all. I was just
Yeah.
laughing. Remembering those moments of, oh, this is just so fun is pretty nice. And I feel like we kind of had that when the theater started to open back up before
Mm-hmm.
Omicron. But then when Omicron took that away from us, I think it jilted us or jaded us in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that it was sort of like going back to the theater was sort of like, okay, is it gonna be? Is this real this time? Is it gonna
Yeah.
like we're all still in a hesitant phase of it, which kind of
Completely.
sucks.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I still haven't felt back
Yeah,
and I think everyone's kind of feeling that way.
agreed. Yeah.
But
We
also
haven't
I'm
bounced back.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now we're in a war. Not to go there, but like
I mean, yeah.
I split my nail and it like has been painful, so I went and got my nails painted to make
Uh-huh.
it better. And the woman painting my nails was like, something about the war on the news came up. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I was like, I know. She's like, and after COVID. And I was like, I know. And she's like, you know what? She's like holding my hand. So it feels like very intimate anyway, because she's painting it. She's like,
Right.
you know what I tell my son? You have to be happy every day because you have no idea what tomorrow is going to hold. And I was like, okay, stranger, thank you for
Wow.
this moment and reminder.
For sure. Yeah. Even if we just have to take a moment and say, okay, this is making me happy. Like I saw this funny thing or I saw this nice thing and I
Mm-hmm.
feel happy right now. Maybe that is the only moment that day, but at least you're acknowledging it. And if you can do that every day where you can say, I was happy today. It was
Mm-hmm.
for a moment, but I was happy today. Then that's got to make things a little better.
Completely. Completely. I mean, even, now that I'm a 9 to 5 woman, sometimes I'm like, ugh, about work. And Davey has a new job and he does something about work. And then today I was like, you know what? Let's say 3 nice things about our job right now. And then we did, and then we were both like, I love my job, and went back to work. Like it's such a like silly thing, but I think
That's
positivity is,
nice.
yeah, it's nice. It's good.
It is, and like there's so much that's so many people are intentionally being negative, and there's so much
Hmm.
negativity out there that I wonder sometimes if people are a little addicted in some way to negativity. I mean,
Yeah.
we already know how social media uses the algorithm. It like preys on the fact that we are more likely to engage with something negative
Yeah.
than something positive. So there must be something addicting about it. But in a world of so and so's, be a such and such, And I feel like in a
Yeah.
world of like hateful, I don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene's, like be a Mr. Rogers or something, like it's
Yeah.
Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Please won't you be my neighbor?
that's just it seems like it'd be better for your soul to focus more on the positive.
I know.
And with the effort of making things better, not with the effort of being oblivious to the bad things.
Yeah, completely. But I feel that way sometimes, like politically.
Mhm.
I'm like, look at what the two parties stand for. One is obviously a smiley face and the other is a frowny. And like, let's choose the green light. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it seems so obvious to me. Like one leads with love, the other leads with just like closed off, like, like
Yeah,
grumpy.
that's such a funny but also astute way to put it. Because I feel like there's so many people who maybe tend to vote for the smiley face. There's so many people on that side now who are going like, that smile isn't big enough though. It's like, oh my gosh. You really want Grumpy McGrump to win again? Is that what you want? At least this guy's smiling.
I know. Ugh,
Sometimes we got to take what we can get,
it's true.
which, kind of relates to the acting world, not to abruptly change back to the subject, but it is a job and just an endeavor. Going
Yeah.
into comedy is an endeavor, whether you have professional desires or not, and then acting is obviously a professional desire.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of no's, or we have a lot of mistakes or a lot of failures,
Yeah.
and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But it sounds like what I've gotten from you is you are learning to chill and not worry so much about that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and more accept where it's at and the beauty that is where it's at.
Yeah, totally. Are you auditioning?
I am. I don't audition every day, unfortunately.
I mean, who does?
I don't know. I had this thought the other day, and it's, maybe not me practicing positivity, but I was sort of like, sometimes the job of an actor is just auditioning. Which, what good is that doing when all you're doing every day or every week is auditioning? And it's like, why am I being negative right now? It's great that I have this opportunity. It'd be nice if
Yeah.
it worked out, but who knows what's going to happen with it? It could be a casting
Yeah.
director who's like, oh, I've seen this guy before. I like him.
Completely.
Who knows?
I'm gonna talk about my favorite person ever again is Molly Lloyd. I took a class with her and then started babysitting for her. When she had her baby, I would go and meet her at auditions and hold her baby while she went in. And then she'd come back out. We'd go to the park together and kind of catch up. She's just like so incredible. But she books like these incredible national commercials. Like, girlfriend knows how to book.
Believe me, I want him to rot in prison. But there's one thing I want more. Closure.
Conviction will give you closure.
No, a conviction will give you closure. You'll move on to your next case. But we'll still be in the exact same position. Waiting by the phone. Wondering where our daughter is. We want to give our daughter a proper burial. So please, make the deal.
But she told me once that she tries to see auditions as just a fun opportunity to act.
Oh,
And
that's so nice. Yeah.
yeah, she was like, it's just fun. It's an opportunity to be creative. It's what we love to do. And I'm like, okay, not all of us shit rainbows, but
That is a really great way to put it. I hadn't thought of it like that. My thing has always been with auditions, it's just like, hey, just go in, be as professional as you can be prepared, and when it's done, forget about it.
Mhm.
But I like her approach better. I mean, my approach kept me from being like distraught every time.
Yeah.
But her approach makes it an exciting thing, a fun thing,
Mhm.
and something that's a little like more like encouraging, but also like, you're being creative, so it's helpful to you, and
Yeah.
like sharpening your creative skills.
Totally. And like extra bonus points if it's a great script and you have a great reader, and then you can actually like do some fun scene work. Even better when they give you a redirect, you get a chance to do it again and practice your skills. Like, I feel like reframing it that way. Unfortunately, self-tapes has taken away the collaborative component, in my opinion. Like, and same with like Zoom auditions. Sometimes I feel like I get there, I'm like, oh, this is fun. It's fun to get directed again. But I just miss being in the room. Like, I miss the butterflies and sitting around seeing everyone in the waiting room, bumping into friends. Like, I miss the
Yeah.
social part. Have you been auditioning in person?
I haven't auditioned in person since before the pandemic. Everything has been
Yeah.
self-tape,
Me
which
either.
is, it's somewhat nice, just because if I was doing something else, it's like, okay, I can just do this real quick. And
Yeah.
or when I was in South Carolina for the holidays, I was able to just, audition real quick. And I wasn't even in town. So that was nice.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, you can be wherever. I did get one in-person audition, but I declined it because it was an audition for a commercial where I would be standing next to a replica of my vagina. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, it won't be your real one, but like you'll be the face like dancing next to like a large felt
Was this
vagina.
a commercial or was it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if it was TV, that would be a different thing. I'd be like, yes, what is that show? Sign me up. No, this is for some like, I think it was for a contraceptive thing, but I
Okay.
was like, there are some things that I cannot bounce back from with my very conservative Catholic family, and I think having my face next to my genitalia is probably that.
That's funny. Have you had an audition where you're like, this was so bad that it's hilarious? Or just like, here's a thing I hate about auditioning that happens every once in a
Yeah,
blue moon.
there was one near the High Line, and it's just like this very impressive, like super tall ceilings, like beautiful casting studio. So it's always really fun and usually the auditions there were like union, really exciting. So
Mhm.
I used to get very excited, and I think that's where Eager Beaver came to play. I was always coming in like, hi! But I went into audition for this like, I think it was like Hubba Bubba, and the spot was that I was someone skydiving, and they had a huge industrial fan that they blew on my face, and I had to just scream as this fan was kind of blowing back my cheeks. And they're like, we want really expressive faces. We want you to just be like screaming your head off. And then as I was doing it, they'd be like, and now you're finding it funny. And now it's scary again. And I'm doing it. And then at a certain point, I could not anymore. So I was like, I stopped and I was like, is that it? And they're like, you're still falling. Keep going. I had to raise my hands up again, open my mouth, scream some more. Like that was one
Wow.
of those auditions. I like walked out of the room. My hair was like blown everywhere. My throat was hoarse, and I was like, this job is humiliating. Like, this is
Yeah.
a humiliating profession. It's just so silly. Oh my gosh, wait, I have another really good bad audition
Oh, please
story.
tell me.
Kind of similar, but oh my gosh, it's even worse. So I got called in, and the spot was that I was someone who was chained up on this like wheel. All four of my limbs were like spread eagle, and they were cranking and like tearing my like limbs apart, like pulling them apart. I was being tortured. And in the scene I was supposed to be crying and begging my father to let me go. And then it says the thing cranks and then you let out a blood curdling scream. That was in the script, okay? So I like go in, they're like, okay, great. So like stand against the wall, have your like arms and legs spread out, just like, and action or whatever. They don't say action in auditions. Go ahead. And camera rolling, sound speed.
Speeding.
Yeah. And, I'm crying, I'm doing the scene. And then here comes the blood curdling scream. I let it out. And you would have thought the way the casting directors jumped at my scream, one of them like clutched their heart and they were like, oh, okay, stop. Thank you very much. That's enough. That's enough. And I was like, okay. So then I walk out of the room and the casting director comes out after and talks to the whole room. And he's like, okay, just as a note to the actors, this is following me. As a note to the actors, this girl isn't actually being tortured, okay? She's pretending, and she's trying to trick her dad. Was not in the script. I was not given that direction. Like,
wow.
it was so crazy.
I get so thrown off sometimes when I'm reading one of the listings, and I'm like, this is so unclear what they want me to do, Or they're asking you to do so much, and you're like, why are you asking me to do so much?
Yeah.
Literally just like give me 2 lines to read at least. Like they're not giving you any lines to read. They're just like, pack a bag. I want to see you pack a bag. Like, what is this for? Like, this is not in the commercial or whatever.
Yeah. No, and I think commercial auditions are like a whole other thing. It's just like the things they make you do in commercial auditions. But for legit auditions, it never makes sense to me why they don't just tell you, like, why didn't they just write at the top of the sides that give me an indication that she's trying to bamboozle her dad? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
They give you just, so for scenes, they'll just give you the scene. They won't give you the whole script. Sometimes you can request it from your agent and they can try and figure out a way to get you it so you can know, like, okay, where does this scene fall in the storyline and, what's happened before. But for small one-liners like girl who gets tortured on medieval crank machine or whatever, they just give you like a snippet, a portion of the script. And so they don't, they don't even give you, they don't give you anything.
There's no context. There's absolutely no context. Other than like the age of the character and what type they are, but it's no like mentality that is, they're not saying like, oh, this person's really stubborn and they're trying to get back at their dad. Like they don't say any of that kind of stuff. It's just like 30-year-old, he's cool. or something vague like that.
Yeah.
And then you get the one line. Or sometimes it's really just the line. And there's no other information.
It's just like cop. And the line is like, hey, you, stop. And so it's like, okay, so is this cop angry? Is this cop kind of funny? What do you want?
Okay, well, he's saying, hey, you, stop. So I guess he's a little like being stern. And so you say it that way. And they're like, oh, the cop's been shot. So what? I didn't know. That doesn't say that in here.
Yeah. Or like there was this one role I got called back. I got pinned. Like I was going to play this sex worker and didn't get it. Was disappointed. Watched the episode. The character was completely cut and they hired a young pimple-faced pizza boy to do the lines. I was like, what the actual hell? I was like, how did this happen? Like, where did this guy come into the casting? Like, was he, I was like, this is so, whatever.
That's funny.
Silly.
I haven't had any auditions that nuts. I did have one though. This is when we were still in person. There were like 2 people standing there, and then there was a person who was sort of guiding me when I got in. And like, yeah, you're just gonna act like you're carrying something, and you drop something, and you just like say something to your Alexa Dot, like vacuum the hallway or something like that. And I was like, okay. And so I just like act through that. Alexa, vacuum the hallway. They're like, let's do another take. It's like, okay. And then I do another take. And then that person looks to the 2 people who are standing there and says, do you have any notes? And this one guy was like, yeah, can you say it a little more like nonchalant? Like you're just talking to your Alexa in the air. Okay. So I do that. And then he's like, maybe I wasn't clear. Like, can you just kind of look down briefly and then just say, Alexa, vacuum the hallway? So I do that. And he asks for it again. So now I've done it like 5 times. And he hasn't changed the words he's using to direct me. But he gets enough takes out of me. He was like, okay, I guess I feel like we're good. And I feel like he was almost like frustrated, but also like, we've got enough. We've got 5 takes. Fine.
Yeah.
But then the other guy goes, well, actually, can we get another take where you like sort of look at it nonchalantly and then just sort of say, Alexa, clean the hallway? And I was thinking like, you mean what I did just 5 times? You want me to do that again? You mean the thing that he said 3 times?
Yeah.
Just do that? All right. So I did it and he asked me to do it again. And I'm like, dude, if I don't have it, just let me leave. I'm just thinking this. I didn't say it, but it's just like what exactly do you want that I'm not giving? It's not like I was going, Alexa, you have to vacuum the hallway. Like I was just only like, Alexa, vacuum the hallway. Like just nonchalant, like they're asking, but that wasn't the sort of nonchalant they wanted, I guess.
Oh my God. I'm sure they were like, throw it away. That's what always they always say that. Yeah, just do it again and just throw it away. Throw it away? Nonchalant? Like what? So
This is how I talk to Alexa every day when I'm cooking. Like I'm using the same tone. How am I doing it wrong? I'm saying it the way I say it in real life.
it feels like they wanted you to do that exercise where you're like, Alexa, vacuum the hallway. Vacuum the hallway. Like, like
They're like trying to David Fincher me until like
yeah.
do the take so many times until you can't do it unnaturally.
I know. Completely. Well, you know what I find borderline offensive, but I still do it, is how much improv sometimes these commercial auditions will ask for. And I'm like, at a certain point, you gotta give me a writer credit. Like I am giving you gold here. But like again, I'm gonna shout out Molly, but Molly really advocated for union actors to get writers credits because she told me that she would like her and other great improvisers would like see some of their language that they had done in auditions like in the final spot. And
no, I've heard that actually Christina Grospeach was saying that on this podcast a couple years ago that that's exactly why they do it, is so they can have like just new dialogue that's fresher. Because they run out of ideas, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that is not a good practice. If you like their lines so much, you should have hired them. If you weren't going to hire them, don't use their lines. That company has a lot of money. So either pay them for the line or don't use it, or use the actor and use the lines. But don't pad your script with a bunch of extra takes that you got for free.
I had an audition, a callback, where the director told me, he was like, okay, do that one thing you did in your first audition. Like, I tried to get the girl before you to do it. I tried to direct her to do it, and she thought it was weird. I was like, okay, first of all, it's not weird, it's hilarious. And they're like, don't tell me. Like, I guess that's what happens in casting. You see things that you like that you want other people to do. People to do.
Well, it's been a great chat. I've loved this whole conversation. I feel like we've gotten into some really fun and good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's create something together. I want to pick your brain about auditioning, like approaches to it, because maybe some things need to be demystified, but certain things also, maybe people could put their best foot forward with a little better advice.
Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give someone for auditioning? What are the checklists that they need to make sure they're doing, that you think they should be doing?
I mean, what kind of auditioning?
Oh, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, I was thinking like commercials or TV,
Yeah. I would say, so for commercial, I mean, first of all, like everything's self-taped now, so I think it really makes a difference to have like a non-distracting background, good lighting, and good sound. I'm not just filming on my phone because I feel like I got a new phone, I got a new iPhone, and that does the trick. But even like natural lighting, I have like a pop-up screen, but I think that is pretty key. Like get yourself a pop-up screen. They're only like $40. Get, if you don't have a nice phone to record on, get like a cheap digital camera, a tripod, like get the stuff so that you can be competitive. Because the thing that for commercial and for television, you're competing with everybody now, because everyone has access to these auditions across, people in LA are auditioning for New York shows, and people in LA know how to produce good stuff. There's for every one actor that doesn't have a screen, there's 10 actors in LA that do. So I think don't take for granted the technical stuff. Like I just would say, do yourself a favor, get a screen or a non-distracting wall, stand by a window with good natural lighting, or get like a softbox light or something, or a ring light. I don't know. That's my first like technical advice. In terms of like acting advice, commercials, just take an improv class and make it your own. Try and make it funny. I feel like most commercials want to be funny these days. Like if they try and make your slate kind of personable, but honestly, don't put a lot of pressure on it, because commercials are really loosey-goosey and they want people that are like natural and having fun. For legit auditions, be off book. I like to record my lines on my phone and then, learn my lines by just saying them back and forth to myself. Like the opposite lines, I mean.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, make sure that you have your eyes up with your reader. And I'm just talking about technical stuff. Like for acting stuff and character choices, I work with a coach, so a lot of it is just doing a lot of investigating of the script. So look at the page number and see like, okay, this is a hour-long drama. The scene is from page 5. Okay, this is going to be a scene where I like probably explain a lot of like the setup for this story. Or, oh, wow, this is a scene that's on page 40 and it's super intense. Like this is probably the height of the action of this scene and I need to probably bring a bit more oomph to it. Like there's some like some like investigating stuff that you can do with scripts that I think is helpful. Also like messing around with like the non-cliched version of doing the scene. Like the other week I had a scene between like a husband and a wife who were fighting. And I was so excited to like just go there and just be pissed. And then my coach was like, what's the most powerful thing to do in a fight? And I was like, say a really mean comment. And he was like, no, like actually, like how do you and Davey fight? And like, what do you do when you're trying to make the biggest point? And eventually I got there. I didn't get it the first time. But I did notice, and this is what he said, silence. Like when you're fighting with your spouse and they say something that really pisses you off, you're quiet. And that tension, that is a fight. And that is a real marital like love fight. And then we did the scene and I added some silence and I didn't go there in that cliched way. And I was like, oh, this is what they mean when they say make a choice. The choice is the real choice that you would make in real life.
Right.
Yeah, I would just say like general note, look at the technical, read the script back and forth, look at all the stage directions and do them. I feel like I used to teach a kids acting class and I was in a studio for a while for like film and TV. And the difference it makes, like if it says pick up a box and places it on the counter, like just do that in the audition. It gives you something to do. Like don't ignore the directions and just say the lines. I think a lot of it's like pretty, people know how to do it. But to me, it took me a long time. I'm still learning how to audition for TV and film. What am I saying?
Yeah, I feel like there's always so much to learn. And then people say like, well, this is industry standard now. And it's like, why are they changed? It's still acting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, it changes. So like, I guess being up on that helps.
Yeah. I mean, like commercials, truly I just care less. Like the only commercials I book are the ones that I'm like, I don't want this, or like, this is dumb. And then I get it. And then TV is like the ones I do the most work on. The ones where I like know my character, I know my lines. I like have fallen in love with the scene. I know exactly why I'm wearing, what I'm doing. Yeah. I think just phoning in TV auditions is not as good as for commercial.
Definitely not. Well, there it is. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Margaret.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, there it is. Kaboom.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny. I hope you enjoyed that chat. I also hope you enjoyed the horror stories about auditioning. Oh, auditioning. They can be wild, but it's fun. We love what we do. check out her episode of the Truth podcast called Married Alive. Really great episode. I've mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast. Definitely check that out. Also, check out her Boogie Manja sketch team, Pagliacci. You can go to boogiemanja.com/Pagliacci and find out more about what they've got going on. Also, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ThereItIsPod. And follow me on Twitter at JasonFarJokes and on Instagram at JasonFarPics. Links in bio. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.